Schrade Quick Tips. Sharpen your skills.
In this Schrade Quick Tip video, we're going to show you how to get a fire started anywhere, at any time, using this bow drill technique. So stick around for step-by-step instruction on making and using a bow drill kit, and pick up a few tips from our experts along the way.
Whether you're on a weekend camping trip with a family or lost in the middle of nowhere, a good campfire ranks high on your comfort list. But what if you're unprepared, or your only lighter isn't working? Every outdoorsman should possess the ability to make fire anytime and in the worst of conditions, even if that means rubbing two sticks together. Before we get started, you'll need about a 3-foot length of strong cordage. We recommend paracord or bank line. You'll also need a sturdy full-tang fixed-blade survival knife, like our SCHF 30, SCHF 32, SCHF 35, or SCHF 36. The first step to building a bow drill kit is gathering the proper materials. A good kit is fashioned from the dried, dead wood of a soft species of tree. Finding such wood isn't always easy. When searching for viable materials, it's important to remember the rule of thumb. Take your thumbnail and press it into your selected piece of dead wood. If it leaves a slight indentation, then chances are it's soft enough to be used to make a fire. Our favorite trees for making bow drill kits include basswood, cottonwood, and tulip poplar. There are 5 components that make up a fully functional bow drill set. They include the bow, the spindle, the hearthboard, the bearing block, and an ember catch. The spindle and hearthboard are the only components that require soft, dry wood. For the spindle, you'll want to stick about the width of your thumb and about the length of your wrist to the tip of your middle finger. Once you've selected your spindle, carve the top end into a pencil-like point and the bottom into a blunt, rounded shape. This makes for plenty of friction created by the bottom of the spindle, while the top is virtually frictionless. For the hearthboard, find a piece of dry, soft wood about the diameter of your wrist and baton off the 2 outside pieces, leaving a flat hearthboard about 3/4 of an inch thick. For tips on batoning, see our video on batoning in this series. While you're at it, shave off any remaining curve in your hearthboard so that you have a nice flat edge. Carve a divot into the hearthboard, about a spindle's width from the edge. Next, you'll need a bow. We recommend a green branch that has a slight curve to it with a Y at one end that measures roughly armpit to fingertip in length. With your knife, carve a number 7 notch on the end that doesn't have a Y. Tie one end of your cordage around the notch. Take the other end of cordage and pull it over the Y on the opposite end of the bow so that the string is taut before wrapping the cordage around the Y a time or 2, then tying it off. The next component is the bearing block. The bearing block is a block with a divot carved into it that acts like a bearing by allowing the top of the spindle to spin freely as the user bears down. A bearing block can be made from a variety of different materials. We recommend a green piece of hardwood. Maple, oak, or hickory work well. Find a piece that fits comfortably in your hand and cut a 3 to 5 inch section. Now baton at the 1/3 mark on one side of the block. This leaves you with a hefty bearing block fashioned for a good grip. Using your knife, carve out a small divot in the center of the flat side of the block. Use caution when carving the divot in a bearing block. Never carve into the block while holding the block in your other hand. Find a stump or set the bearing block on the ground and carve the divot using a drilling motion with your knife. The final piece in our bow drill kit is the ember catch. And chances are you've already made one without even realizing it. Just find the nearest wood scrap or piece of bark left over from all that carving you've been doing, and you're ready to go. Now that you're ready to use the bow drill kit, find a dry area to work. Place the hearthboard on the ground so the ember catch is directly underneath the divot. Grasp the bow in your right hand with the string facing towards you and grab the non-Y end. Hold the spindle in your left hand with the sharp end facing up and twist it into the bowstring. Place your left foot on top of the hearthboard to hold it in place, and with the bearing block in your left hand, reach around the outside of your left knee to place the bearing block on top of the spindle. You'll need to lean into your wrist so that your shin braces your wrist. Holding the bow parallel to the ground and the spindle perpendicular to the bow, begin by making controlled full strokes with the bow, gradually increasing downward force and speed until you have burnt in your divot. You'll know when you've reached this stage by the presence of plenty of smoke, and the smell, sound, and feel of the spindle and hearthboard will change. Once you've burnt in, take a break and catch your breath. You're halfway there. With your knife, carve a notch resembling a piece of pie into your burnt-in divot. This notch should be about 1/6 to 1/8 of the divot and fall just shy of halfway into your divot. Once you've carved your notch, you're ready to make an ember. Resume your previous position, as the process is essentially the same, except this time the goal is to apply enough downward pressure to create dust and enough speed to ignite that dust into an ember. Begin with full controlled strokes, gradually increasing downward pressure and speed until you can see that you've created a pile of dust in the notch. Once you see the dust, it's time to bring it up to ignition temperature by increasing spindle speed with each stroke of the bow. When confident you've generated an ember, carefully remove your spindle from the hearthboard and fan the ember. If it continues to smoke on its own, then you've successfully created an ember. Place the ember into your bird nest and slowly blow it to flame. There you have it, fire made the old-fashioned way. Once you've mastered this skill, you can sleep easy and stay warm at night, no matter what nature throws at you.
Fire by friction is an advanced skill and will take some time to fully master, but it is richly rewarding. Even once mastered, it should only be used as a last resort, and proper fire starting materials should always be carried in the backcountry. For more quick tips on survival and bushcraft skills and tasks, check out our other videos in this series. While you're at it, visit Schrade.com and check out our full assortment of quality knives and accessories. But for now, be sure to click the subscribe button above to subscribe to our Schrade Knives YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Ways you can connect with Schrade are in the description below, along with other great tips and relevant info. To discover more about the gear used in this video, check out the links in the video description on YouTube, visit Schrade.com, or take a trip to your local outdoor gear retailer.